In the middle of Sydney Olympic Park lies Newington Nature Reserve, and right behind me, growing on top of all of it, is one of the rarest forests left in Sydney. But this area hides an explosive past, so come with me today on this cold winter morning as we walk through to uncover its history, some of its deeper layers, and how this near extinct forest grew back here in the last 30 years. So the forest itself is quite unique and diverse. So I did mention before, critically endangered, the Sydney Turpentine-Ironbark Forest. Plus there's mangroves and salt marshes here, which adds to the diversity of the ecosystem. The number of turpentine-ironbark forests that survived in Sydney is less than 1%. This is the most obliterated ecosystem in the Sydney Basin, and I'm standing at pretty much 20 hectares of it, which is quite amazing to see. Rarer still, the reserve holds the only complete zonal succession left in the whole Parramatta River, which is essentially eucalypt forest, swamp oak, to salt marsh, to mangrove, to mudflat, like that sort of process. This is the only area on the Parramatta River where that natural process is still occurring. Everywhere else on the river, the gradient was cleared and you can walk the entire transition in a few hundred meters. So that's just the ecosystem, but you know, what about the animals and the fauna? So there's a lot of wildlife here. Even this morning, a lot of different birds getting sunlight in the sunrise. So 144 different bird species, including internationally protected migratory shorebirds, 10 different bat species, including the white striped three-tailed bat, and there's also the endangered green and golden bell frog. The list goes on. One of the only two Sydney populations of the white-fronted chat, high density for halo-bearing trees, which allows, you know, birds to burrow in there and have their nests for some of those different types of birds. So very important ecosystem, and thanks to the efforts of the government in the last 30 years, we've been able to rehabilitate this and allow this ecosystem to flourish. And essentially it's become rare because of all of the development of Sydney. Places like this are becoming rarer and rarer, so we need to preserve this for the future generations.
Very beautiful.
It is, yeah. Great day.
Perfect in the sun.
Yeah. I think they call this the Woo-la-Ra. This is the other high point. Look on the ore trails, which I'll link below. Woo-la-Ra, get to there, and then across from there you'll see this other high point, which gives you somewhat a better view. This delta part of the Parramatta River. I believe that's Parramatta. I mean, I don't know shit, but I believe that's Parramatta. I mean, there's no other tall buildings in Western Sydney other than Parramatta. That's definitely Sydney Olympic Park, and you can see stadium, the main stadium there, with some of those apartment buildings that were in the news for having dodgy builders. But the parkland more or less extends all the way through here. I don't really like people seeing me recording, not yet at least. I don't think anyone does ever. It's a bit weird. People look at you funny. Spoken about its past, its history from an ecological and natural perspective. What was this explosive past? What was happening here that needed 30 years to be completely remediated? Let's find out further in the trail. I'm actually super sick. You might be able to hear it in my voice. But it's actually the winter solstice today, so the shortest day and the longest night of the year. Smack bang in the middle of winter. And you can definitely feel it. It's so cold out. I came out here in summer for a different video, which I'll link up above. Completely different vibe. It's more about what I've learned in the last 10 years. But that day it was a lot warmer, a lot muggier. There was a lot more mosquitoes. I think I much prefer the winter walks actually, because I know personally my legs aren't sticking together, I'm not sweating everywhere. So I'm enjoying this now. It's a great morning. There's a lot of ferries that come through here. Really need to get out more and understand the places we experience. Like, I had been here before, but I had never really thought about what was happening here. I think this is an interesting sort of series I could start, hidden stories around Sydney. Previous video, which I think I'll link up above, about Saltpan Creek. There's a massive bird on the other side of the river. Some sort of heron, but there's no way. I would need my Fuji camera to pick it up. Yeah, just there where you won't be able to see it. Didn't want to mention the explosive past, but let's get into this actually first, because it's quite important and it's actually the bedrock for this area. So obviously First Nations people lived here for thousands of years, specifically the Wangal Country. You know, there's historic roots of our First Nations people in this area, and they're represented with their art. You know, arts around the Frontier War, around the Stolen Generation, and then they're belonging to this land. So It's quite a serene and peaceful area if you want to see some cool artworks and just sit by the river. Gathering to the traditional owners was developed in partnership with the Native American community of the Turtle Island, Canada and USA as an international Indigenous collaboration under the framework of the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. So it's something much broader and must have been around the Olympics time, I'm assuming. This is one of the things I really want to do. Like, it's been one of my bucket list items is to go to see cave paintings. Surely there's heaps in Australia and I just haven't really done the research. Do you know what I mean? Like a person that you could, in theory, speak to. If there was a translator, you could speak to that person and they made that cave painting 100,000 years ago, you know? What was their concerns? What was their life about? You know, I'd love to find that shit out. For tens of thousands of years, Aboriginal people have used fire as a powerful tool to care for the country. Yeah, so this is a well-known fact. The Aboriginal First Nations people controlled fire and made sure bushfires didn't get out of hand, essentially, and it's something that we still can't figure out. It's funny how a lot of this ancient knowledge is being lost because the cultures are being lost. All right, I've teased this explosive past long enough now. We are here today at the Newington Armory. So we did mention that this was Wangal Country first, and First Nations people have inhabited here for many generations. And the shores were somewhat molded by the Indigenous people. They did dig it out. So in 1807, this place became an estate for John Blaxland. He was a free merchant, a free settler. He essentially converted this place into a cattle farm for slaughter and trade, all 20 hectares of it, and it became Newington. He renamed it Newington, and they molded the shore. It's quite straight, unnaturally straight. So the Indigenous people obviously dug it up and, you know, did some stuff to it. But, you know, once this became an estate, they essentially molded it into a straight shoreline. So, you know, ships and whoever's sort of stopping here could easily access the land. And it became one of the most prominent, you know, farms in Sydney and Australia. There's actually hundreds of buildings here, you know, historic buildings, 19th and 18th century. His house still somewhat stands. There's just a seaplane. You know those planes that can land on water? That's crazy. John Blaxland's house still actually is standing. So the guy that set up this place as an estate, it's in the Silverwater jail though, so we won't be visiting that today. But I'm not sure if they're using the house for the facilities or not, but it's on the grounds, so unfortunately we can't see his house. But from 1897, this place became the Newington Armory. So the Navy started storing ammunition and machinery all throughout, you know, the different buildings on this premises. And by World War II, it was storing Australian, British and US munitions all throughout the grounds. So when I speak about explosive past, it actually was explosive. You know, there was tons and tons of World War II era bombs all throughout this place. But then in the early 2000s, that's when the remediation started happening. 48 hectares of it was rezoned as protected areas. So that's when, you know, a lot of the ecological sort of systems were maintained. So essentially, it's come full circle. It was an empty wetland with, you know, locals utilizing it for hunting and living their lives. Then it became private property, an estate for a rich merchant to sell cattle out of. Then it transitioned to the government and they used it for essentially storing bombs. And it's returned back to its natural state as an ecological nature reserve. And, you know, locals now are using it for leisure. So, you know, it's interesting when you visit somewhere that you've always visited from a different lens and different understanding, and trying to understand its history and its deeper layers, you tend to appreciate it more. So I do implore you, if there's somewhere that you've visited your whole life and you're not sure about what these buildings are and you're just, you know, keen on understanding and learning a bit more. Do some research, and if there's anywhere you want to see in Sydney that you're interested about its history, pop it down below. I'd love to. And if there's anywhere in your local town, you know, doesn't have to be in Australia, put that down below. I'd love to see, you know, interesting areas outside of Australia or Sydney. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. My name is Niz. I make videos at the intersection of travel, transformation and technology. And if you want to see more interesting spots around Sydney and the world, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching.